So we'll probably wait a little bit for a couple people to hop on. But yeah, if you guys are new to the podcast, if you haven't listened to it before, we record them live every Friday, 12:30, in the Facebook group. So make sure you're in there so you can listen to them. We're also on YouTube. So it's podcast, straightforward podcast. Going to be interview different guests, different investors, wholesalers that are killing it in the industry, or people that are just starting and having a lot of success, so they can share their tips and secrets with us. At the end, we do have a Q&A, so if you guys have any questions, just make sure to drop them, and we will make sure we get them answered for you at the end. So today, I'm super excited to be joined by my good friend Caleb Allen. Caleb's an investor and wholesaler. Caleb, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. So yeah, so for people who don't know you, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Caleb Allen. I live up here in the Pacific Northwest, Olympia, Washington, to be exact. However, I grew up in half the time in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and the other half in San Diego, where my dad's at. So I got involved in real estate probably back when I was 23. I'm 42 now, so it was a while back. And my introduction to the business was in the mortgage world. So I spent several years as a producing branch manager and a producer on the mortgage side. And then then I had a break in between, but about 8 years ago, I got into the appraisal side of the game. And I work for National AMC. We do thousands of appraisals every month for numerous banks and credit unions and retail mortgage companies. And a few years ago, I had invested in real estate before, and in fact, I did a few wholesale deals back in the day. But I started going down the path of wanting to buy and hold some real estate, and it just kind of evolved. Next thing I knew, I was flipping a property, and then I started looking into wholesaling some deals, and that's when me and you started talking, and Apex connected us, and yeah, it's been a cool ride ever since.
That's awesome, man. And then I know you've kind of gone, all in, and I still have your W-2. You manage both things, and then you're still doing wholesaling. I know you've had a lot of success fairly
Yeah.
early. I mean, it usually takes people a while. You kind of want to walk us through, what your journey's been like since you kind of started and got back into wholesaling.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm an SVP for this appraisal management company called TriServe out of Roswell, Georgia, and it gives me this unique opportunity to kind of have a bird's eye view of what's going on in every market, right? And so, yeah, one of the big things that that I was looking at is where could I buy a property and hit the 1% rule, right? And so I set my size on a few markets, and one of the main markets was Savannah, Georgia. And so there's a couple things that kind of like played into why I chose Savannah, not just the 1% rule, but also the ability to have a good exit strategy. And that was being able to buy a property, rehab it, and then, based on the after repaired value, I knew that the loan guidelines were limited for how much you could essentially finance the property for and cash out. And so that guideline was capped at like 75%. So, not to get too into the weeds, but basically, I was buying property that could buy, rehab, refinance at a 75% loan to value or 75% of the after repaired value. And it would also rent for the 1%, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of, was a conservative way, I guess, approach to buying real estate. And bought one property, uh, bought another, and started coming across deals where I was like, man, I can't close on these. I don't have the money, right? You only have so many resources and so much ability to buy. So that's when I started looking down at wholesaling. We were connected, and you were, the wholesale syndicate. You provide so much value and so many resources for us just to get started. So purchase and sales agreement, assignment contracts, things like that. And that was definitely a key, like, milestone, was connecting with you in my journey, because then as I came across deals, I was able to put them out there on assignment. And the first deal I did, I think we assigned it for 30,000. The second deal we assigned for 10, and then this last deal we assigned for 50. So, in a span of 3 months working with the wholesale syndicate, 3 or 4 months, I was able to pull in $90,000 in assignment fees. So that was huge, and all that you know contributed right back into me acquiring properties. So
Mm-hmm.
in the last year, we've acquired 6 single family residences and 2 fourplexes. So we've been able to, however many doors that is, we've been able to, a couple of those we're flipping, a couple of those we're holding on to, but yeah, it's been a cool ride.
That's badass, man. I know it's a lot of people struggle in the beginning, and I feel like like 90K and 90 days or 120 days is pretty
Yeah.
fucking badass, man. So congrats, dude.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
definitely love having you in the mastermind. Yeah, people don't know what Syndicate is. It's a private wholesaling mastermind. Bunch of a good group of guys, and we all meet up and mastermind and kind of help brainstorm, and really just whatever someone has a problem with, we try to help solve. And it's so much easier to work with people than trying to do it on your own, especially when you have the right people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And every week, just the ability to get on a call and ask questions and run scenarios by Kai and the other guys in the group is huge. So it gives you different perspective, and there's like they say, there's no one way to skin a cat. And in real estate, there's so many different strategies to approach any type of deal. Recently we've been talking about novations, and I don't know what I don't know about novations, but the more we dig into it, the more I see that there's opportunities that when people, just aren't wanting to accept a cash offer, that's, call it 65, 70 cents on the dollar, approaching them with a novation is ideal in a lot of situations. And usually it's even better than than them listing it on MLS. A lot of times, if you work out the numbers, they could potentially walk away with more money, right?
Yeah, or at least get a quicker sale. Definitely sitting and waiting for a realtor to just throw it on the MLS.
Well, I always think of the inspection reports, right? Like when people buy a house and they do their inspection report, they just nitpick. You got to fix this. You got to fix this. You got to do this. So when you factor all the fixes into the closing costs and the commissions you'd pay a buyer and seller's agent, I think the novation is awesome. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a great strategy. Doesn't hurt having more tools in the toolbox, and if cash offer doesn't work. So
absolutely.
So awesome. So run us through the big deal then. So we did 50K on the last one. You want to walk us through the process, how you found that deal and how it worked
Absolutely. Out? Yeah. So I got to give credit to my 20-year-old son too, Cannon. So he's been involved in this process and working with me throughout the summer while he was on summer break from Arizona State. So yeah, we would pull lists. The lists that we would pull were often code violation lists that we'd get from the city. That was something that you showed us, and we would skip trace the list, and then we would essentially send out a text message asking the potential sellers if they were interested in an offer on their home. This particular gentleman that we had gotten a hold of said that he wasn't interested in selling his house. However, in the training in the wholesale syndicate, we're taught to then ask like, well, hey, do you have any other properties that you would consider selling? And he said yes. And so Cannon actually got on the phone with them and spoke with the gentleman about his primary residence, because we had called him on one of his investment properties, his primary residence, and it was quite a large home, almost 6,000 square feet on 77 acres. As soon as Cannon said that, I said, hey, this isn't really in our wheelhouse. Like that's, I don't know, as far as doing a dispo on that seemed like a complicated process, but Cannon didn't let it go. Fortunately for us, my stepdad is a developer, and he had brought the deal to him just to kind of talk, and they came to discover that the 77 acres at one point was an approved development. And so Cannon came to me and said, hey, this is an approved development, or was. I don't know what it would take to get it reapproved, but we should think about selling, wholesaling the house and then selling the development to a builder or developer. And so we started down the road of reaching out to developers in the area to try to figure out, if they would be interested in the property. And then we also started, calling the county departments to make sure that, hey, this project was in fact doable, right? That this development could still be a viable option for a builder to come in and develop the the lots that were actually split up. And so, yeah, so we started going down. We found a developer that was interested. The caveat was he wanted us to do some of the soil studies and the wetland delineation studies, which cost money. And so we had to kind of get you know, a reading of where he was at in terms of buying the deal. And so we had, numerous conversations and ended up writing up a contract that would assign him only half of the project and then assign him the other half of the project, which actually was the side of the project that really needed the soil samples or the soil studies and stuff. And so through the process, we ended up closing on one half of the project, and the assignment was 50,000. And then the other half, because of the complications and not knowing if the lots were going to be buildable, I literally just assigned it for a non-refundable fee of $5,000. Just so essentially, once, and that side's still in pending, right? It's still gonna hopefully close in the next 30 days. But that being said, the project as a whole will bring in $55,000 as an assignment fee, and the developer just took over the whole project. We definitely did a lot of legwork, and it wasn't easy, but that's kind of how it went down.
That's awesome, man. I'm sure it was still worth it in the end. I mean, definitely
it was, yeah,
big payday. And I think I love how, in the beginning you guys were, worried like it's on your wheelhouse, and it's a huge, like unknown. But I like to say everything's figure outable, and you guys got it done and hammered out, figured it out.
Well, so my stepdad being a developer, like prior to that, he was a flipper, right? He flipped properties. And one of the things that I've found in this business is that if you can find a house with an extra lot or a house on property that you're able to essentially develop, right? That brings huge value to the table. So I'd say, like, anytime you have the opportunity to find a property that has an extra lot to it, or is on some acreage that can be split, do your due diligence. It might be worth offering more on that house to be able to get it and split it, right? And the right investor or the right buyer will see the value in that. So don't write it off as like, oh, this person just won't offer, or won't accept an offer that, makes sense when it comes to the property itself. But if you look at the everything as a whole, and how you can kind of, like I said, split it up or whatever, there's a lot of ways to make money in that regard. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I love how you still got creative. I know it's kind of hairy at certain points when we were talking that you're worried about maybe it wouldn't go through, and I feel like there's just so many unknowns you're going through the deal, just like a roller coaster. But it's always great when it works out in the end.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome, man. So what else have you learned, or what have you, like, since you first started? Is there anything you know now that you wish you knew when you first started?
I think that you need to have a plan, and you need to stick to the plan. You need to work that plan every day. And it's really easy to get distracted when it comes to real estate, because there are a lot of ways to do this, and there are a lot of ways to make money. And there's land deals, there's commercial, there's multifamily, there's single family. I think that you kind of get clear on your goals, and then you stick to that for at least a few months, right? You just work that plan every day. Your numbers. You work on your scripts. That's been huge. We've talked about that. The way you deliver the offer to the seller matters, right? And you can say one wrong word and the deal's dead. So I think that it's been a learning process, understanding what are the right words to use, and then not to let myself get distracted with the next shiny object or the next opportunity to make money, right, in real estate, this way or that way, but just sticking to a plan of pulling the lists, making the calls, sticking to the script, and doing that day in and day out. So consistency.
100%. Yeah, I think that, and you guys take massive action. I think that's really why you guys had so much success early on. But I think a lot of people struggle with that, the shiny object syndrome. And just one guy I talked to, and try to help him out, and literally just puts me up. And this week it's something new, and then he wants to do land flipping, or he wants to do subject to, and he still hasn't even done a deal yet, and he just wants to keep jumping
Yeah.
around. Somebody else told him to do this. He saw a YouTube video that said do that, and then just all the momentum he would have had if he just kept being consistent in the one thing. It's gone. And
Yep. No, I mean, man, like that was with the land deal. That's why I almost passed on it, because I was like, I've learned, in this business, like, hey, you get real clear on your what you want to accomplish. You put a plan together, then you work it every day, and yeah, so definitely.
100%. So what are you so what were you guys doing, like, as far as text, like, numbers? You guys know, like, how many, like, texts you were sending, or like how many, like, contacts you were pulling?
Yeah.
Do you guys track any of those numbers?
Yeah, we've tracked some of them. We should do a better job at doing it, but what I will say is that, we were initially pulling huge lists, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we learned to get more specific in the data that we were pulling. And then as the text message rules kind of changed, and talking with you and getting feedback from other wholesalers, we started realizing that, sending it in small chunks at a time, right? And through the REI bot, the platform that you've developed, which is a super great resource and platform to use when it comes to text messaging. We realized that if we send it out, in 50 contacts at a time, right, that we had a better response rate, and I think that we had a better, it was delivered,
Mm-hmm.
right, and it wouldn't get blocked or whatever you want to call it. But I would say that, gosh, I don't know how many we were going through every week, but I had Cannon uploading like 1,000 contacts a week, and then he would slowly work his way through those contacts.
Mm-hmm.
50 to 100 at a time, basically.
That's awesome. And then one thing I want to talk to you about too, or if you don't mind sharing, is like, how's it working with your son? I know, look, I know I've met your son a couple times, virtually at least. I know he's a real go-getter.
Yeah.
What's that dynamic like? Seems you guys work well together. How do you manage that?
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate. My son, he's the oldest, and he is very practical, and he's very well articulated. He handles himself well in stressful situations, and he's not afraid of conflict.
Mm.
And so I think that is kind of a good recipe for someone to be able to be super good in sales. Um, I think that, you know, uh, because he's, such a good kid. I don't know. He's always been one to listen to dad.
Mm-hmm.
All the other kids, I'm not so fortunate, but it's been good. The dynamic's been good. He sees the opportunity to make a lot of money at a young age, and he's always been one to really, like, he kind of gets out ahead of himself in plans, right? So when he wanted to go to college, he started looking into how am I gonna get through college, and afford it. So this is a kid that did the Running Start program and had his 2-year degree done when he graduated from high school. And then when he was looking at how he was going to afford college, he came to me one day. He goes, "Dad, I have it." And I go, "Okay, what are you going to do?" He goes, "I joined the Army Reserve." I was like,
Yeah.
"What?" He's like, "Yeah, and so him coming to me with this, he had a plan, right? And he wanted to get out in front and work the plan and make some money, so he wasn't stressed out when he went back to school, and he was willing to listen to me, and it was great, man. We have a great dynamic. Every once in a while, I think I get a little frustrated because I'm super persistent. Like, when I say work a plan every day, like, I get up and I make those calls and I do the follow-ups. And
Mm.
I don't know, you can't really teach that. I think that's something that's instilled in you as a salesperson, the drive to just get up and just make those calls, you know. And so he does it, but I don't think he wakes up thinking about it every day, which he's 20, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been great working with him. So
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it seems like guys, that's real cool. So do you think so is that easy, has he always been that way? Just like, motivated and like.
yeah, for the most part, he's always been a kid that really, thinks a few steps ahead, right? Like, if I want this, how am I going to get there? And so, um, a lot of kids just kind of do things in the moment, which I totally understand, and sometimes that's not a bad thing. I mean, a lot of times I've been told, like, hey, just focus on the now. But Cannon is definitely a goal setter. He's
Mhm.
definitely always thinking ahead and what he wants to accomplish, and how and not just what he wants to accomplish, but how am I going to get there? How am I going to accomplish that goal? So he's always been like that.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So any other things that like mistakes you've made since you started, or any other things that like you think be helpful for new people just getting started?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is to get plugged into a group like the Wholesale Syndicate. Hands down, the best thing you can do. Don't go at it alone. Don't go through the school of YouTube thinking all the videos are going to help you, figure this out. There is a lot of bad information out there. Find someone that's doing it and having success with it, and plug into what they're plugged into. And don't get distracted by all the new shiny things. Like, commit to it. Get involved and commit to it. Go to the events, invest the money to fly to, where in my case, Texas, to meet up with Kai and the group, and really be a sponge, and willing to swallow your pride at some points, and just put in the work and do what your mentors are telling you to do.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And
Yeah.
yeah, so last thing I kind of want to touch on, and if anyone else has any questions, make sure to drop them, and we'll get them answered for you when we go over the Q&A portion. But so yeah, you did 90K, 90 days, and still working at W2. How do you manage that? 'Cause I feel like that's everyone's goal. A lot of people are in the W2, and they either want to keep it because it's great pay and they're doing well there, but they want
Yeah.
something on the side, or they want to make the transition. How do you manage both, and how do you kind of make sure you're
Yeah.
not dropping the ball on one side or the other?
Yeah, well, having Canon it was a huge thing. So I would say if you could get someone to help with those calls and those texts, whether that's a VA, a virtual assistant, or someone else, that was super helpful for me to be able to focus on the day job and do that. But time blocking is what I do. I'm fortunate enough to where I know that you know Savannah is 3 hours ahead of me. I live in Washington, and so Savannah being 3 hours ahead of me, I can kind of game plan when to make the calls, and
Hmm.
so I'll time block that. So usually I'll do that right after lunch. I'll block out an hour, and I'll make the calls and do what I need to do, and then um, if I need to do more calls, I time block that out. So I would say that time blocking is probably your best way of being able to juggle the two things. And I'm fortunate enough to have a sales job, so sales never quits.
Hmm.
I don't do a job and then leave and able to leave it back at the office or back at wherever. Sales is an ever evolving thing that's always working. So
100%. So when you say time blocking, are you like putting that in your calendar? Are you doing
yeah,
anything to like?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, everything goes in my calendar. In fact, I'm in an accountability group, and part of that accountability as a group is we map out our week. So every Sunday, we literally map out our entire week. When are we going to the gym? What's the workout look like? When are we, spending time with the family? When's date night with the wife? Right? I have kids that are in sports. I make sure that I have on my calendar like when my son's football game is and when my daughter's volleyball games are, right? Done. And then I map out work, right? And what does work look like? And when am I making the calls for um, my resale or my real estate business? And then when am I, focusing in on my day job with TriServe? TriServe obviously gets priority at the moment. It's essentially what I've been doing for a long time, has been paid the bills for many years. But um, my real estate side business, man, I'm seeing a lot of success quick, and I definitely see light at the end of the tunnel, where I can maybe do it full time at some point in my life. But yeah, that Sunday, you know, stepping back and really planning out the week, and time blocking things on my calendar has been huge.
That's awesome. So how are you going like when you do the whole week plan? Like are you getting like real granular with it? Is it like hour by hour, or how does that look?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I'm not getting real granular like some of those
Mhm.
guys that are like literally
Right.
time block everything, like in
Mhm.
terms of like even their downtime. No, I'm time blocking the important things, right?
Right.
What's the priority? If my son has a game, boom, that goes on. My daughter has a game, boom, that goes on. I need an hour to dedicate to my real estate business, boom, that goes on. If I have an appointment that's set with one of my clients through TriServe, that goes on. I have a sales call, right? Everything that's a set meeting, right? That I need to be in attendance. I need to be focused. I'm not time blocking, my, morning routine, so to speak, or,
Mhm.
just downtime, right? Like, if I'm, I'll have hours where I don't have any scheduled calls, and I might get on LinkedIn and do a post, or, like and comment on, people's stuff that are involved in my industry, try to drum up business that way. Maybe I'll send out some texts to, accounts and relationships that I have in this business, but I don't time block that stuff.
Nice. Not like that. I do the important ones. So
Yeah,
that
anything
what's
that
top of
anything that's
mind.
a priority and importance, like you have to be there, right? Like you've set an appointment, you have to be there. And with the calling, I just set it as an appointment, right? Like
Mhm.
I have to be there. I have to do it. So yeah,
Yeah, I think it's the best way to do it. You just don't. It's like call reluctance is a big thing. We talk about that. If you're not making the calls, because I think it's a habit. If you're doing it day after day, it's like definitely gets easier than if you don't do it for a while. Or if it's your first time making calls, like it
yeah,
sucks. It's really hard to do.
yeah,
Um,
that's true. Very
then you,
true.
you just build it up in your head. And but I think when you have it on there, it's appointment. You're like, hey, I'm not supposed to do anything else. I'm just doing this one thing. It's just so much easier to get hyper focused and to get so much
Yeah.
more done.
Yeah. And going back to that, I mean, just kind of a side note is the scripts, right? The scripts that if you get, if you keep to the same script and you find out what works, that helps a lot, right? Just every day, like working that same script. I think that you really disarm people, so to speak, with some of the ways you can say and word things, right? And we've talked about that, and I think that you've brought a lot of value to my business and in following some of those scripts and using words correctly. So doing that every day does, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, I would say you need a script. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you don't need a script," and just gonna freestyle it. But
Yeah.
one of the biggest things for me is when I know my script verbatim. Yeah, I made it, but I
Yeah.
still have it in front of me all the time because I
Yeah.
like to, one, if we get off track, I can go back real quick to where we're at in the conversation, and two, I can focus on like how I'm going to say,
Yeah.
what I'm going to say instead of what I'm going to say, and I can just focus on the tonality.
Yeah. 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 I have my script just right up here. It's like in my thing, so I can pull it out and,
Mhm.
you know, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a game changer. Yeah, I don't know why people don't think. I think it's they think they sound robotic or they think they sound like whatever. But yeah, you
Yeah.
sound that way because you haven't practiced it enough.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So cool.
Awesome, man. Well, man, I really appreciate you coming on. Love having the syndicate, dude. Love that you're an
Yeah.
action taker, and yeah, man,
Yeah.
I think big. I see big things coming for you, man.
Yeah. I appreciate it, man. I think that it's been, a godsend meeting you. I know you're a brother in the faith too. So it's just like we have a lot in common. And I think that again, like going back to what I said earlier, finding that, mentorship in that group that you can plug into has been the game changer for me. So I know we're gonna meet up here in November. I'm excited to do that and get dinner and talk shop. So
Yeah, man. Now I'm looking forward to it too. Yeah, I think about a month away.
yeah, yeah, cool.
Sweet deal, man. Well, thanks again, everybody who listened. Appreciate you guys. And if you guys had any questions, make sure to drop them and we'll come back and get them answered for you.